Welcome Team Phoenix, welcome to our new episode of the Social Sales Engineer. Welcome if you're watching live, please follow us in the comments, say whatever you need to say, ask questions, and welcome everybody on the recordings also. If you have questions, if you have remarks, just put them in there. They will be visible for us afterwards and we can answer. Today, I want to welcome Joe Nidever. Welcome here. He's sales engineer at Korbyt. So correctly pronounced, Korbyt?
Korbyt.
Korbyt. Oh, why? That's my German accent. Korbyt. And yeah, we want to kick off, obviously we want to kick off Christmas, right? So we have a nice Christmas tree in the background. That's very nice. Cool one. Joe, do you want to introduce yourself a bit to our viewers or audience on the screens?
Absolutely. Yes. Hi, and Patrick. Thanks for that introduction. Yes, I am Joe Nidever. I am a sales engineer with Korbyt. It's a communications platform for corporate entities who are needing to reach anyone wherever they are. It's really been a joy to step into the sales engineering world from the background I came from, and I've just really enjoyed the intersection of understanding business needs, the people, and the technology all working together. So it's been a joy. And I have a background in education. I was a teacher for many years, and I have a background in community music as a church music director for years. And family needs shifted, and I found myself landing here in this role, and it's been a great fit. I've really enjoyed it. And yeah, that's it for me for now.
All right. If you have any questions to Joe, please use the comments. We are looking forward to it. That's interesting. So I think your background is interesting. Like, how long are you sales engineer now?
So I've been working with sales engineering tasks in my company, and it's specifically with the sales engineering title for coming up on 2 years, 2.5 years now. So it's been great. I actually started in the delivery department, so post-sales and delivering the solutions. And in our environment, I was being borrowed for pre-sales activities, and then we blossomed and had a sales engineering department, and we've been able to bring in really great team members, and it's been great.
May I ask you the Gretchen question? Do you know this from Faust? Gretchen question? Doesn't matter.
I'm about to learn it. Go for it.
It's German literature. You know Faust with the devil? And,
you know Faust. Yeah.
And in Germany, it's called the Gretchenfrage, right? And it's a very important question, obviously. So that would be mine to you. Why are you a sales engineer?
Yeah, I'm a sales engineer because I love people. I love talking to people. I love working with people. I love exploring with people. I love asking questions. I love exploring what they really need to solve their real problems. That's been the case when I was a teacher. That was the case when I was working in church music, and it's just remained part of me. I was also a very tech kid. 90s, and take things apart, put them back together. Hey, they still work. I was that kind of kid. And at the time, I didn't know anything existed like this field. But then once I had this opportunity, and I'm like, oh, I get to talk to people all the time, and have all the interest of all the technology and the coding skills I developed, but then be able to bring it back to the people and the business problems. And working specifically with a communications company has been amazing, because it relates even further to, it's a people communications problem. So you're helping people solve the problem with technology in a meaningful way. So it's been a really cool fit to to be here with Korbyt. It's been awesome. And so why am I a sales engineer in general? Is because I love the people, I love solving the problems, and I still have a knack for the technology and love to keep learning. And people always change too. So it's not just the technology, the people change and what's important to people. And when you get off one phone call talking to one company, B2B sales mostly, when you get finished with one company, then you jump over to another one, their needs are completely different. So there's so much variety in any given day. So that's why I love it.
So you say, okay, let's put it that on a scale from tech to sales, right? If this would be a scale, where are you? Like, are you more salesy or are you more technical? And was there like something tough to learn, given your background in education and music?
So music is very technical in nature. I mean, it's a different language. You're building on skills that you already have. And because I already had the technical mind, I actually found music second. In my life, I didn't find music first.
Can I chime in here? What do you mean by music is technical? Can you explain? I mean, we have a piano upstairs. My daughter is now learning with the teacher. So give me some clue. What does it mean? It's technical. It's interesting.
Sure. So let's put it in our terms today. If I put API documentation in front of you, what understanding am I assuming that you already know about dissecting that API documentation? You know what an endpoint is, you know what credentials are, you know the different types of authorization, you know what parameters you're passing in, you know what data is going to come back, you know what data is going to be used to solve a business problem, you know what data is not going to solve their business problem, you know what what data you can tweak. Okay, all right.
And you know what HTTP is, right?
Yeah. And say what? Say that again.
And you know what HTTP is.
Exactly, right. Yeah. And also, you know, and when you go from platform to platform or company to company, how are you accessing that? How are you storing that data? What are you doing? Okay. Now we probably have a lot of people on this call that are going, yeah, I understand that. How's that music? Okay, I'm going to put a piece of sheet music in front of you. What do you have to already understand about comprehending that? And then let's take your coding language, because you can do an API call and whatever. Okay, and you can store that data in however way you want, and then utilize it however way you want. So if I put sheet music in front of you and I say, take it apart, you're going to say, I don't know where to start. That's because you don't have the technical skills and the foundation. And when it comes to understanding the language that's in front of you, what's the time signature, what's a key signature, how does that relate to the rhythm and the harmony and the melodic structure, all of those things all come together to have a performance that looks effortless. Okay. And when you have these conversations with customers who are, hey, can I integrate this? Or, hey, can I solve this business problem? You need to be able to have those eloquent conversations based on a technical understanding. A beautiful musical performance by someone who is trained, whether that be classically trained or otherwise, it looks effortless, but you have no idea how many hours it's taken for them to develop the skills for it to then look easy. So I feel like, so going back to your other question of scale of 1 to 10, sales or technical, I land right in the middle, because if I understand what somebody needs to solve their business problem, but we can't achieve it, or we need to achieve it a different way from a technical perspective, I have to be ready to talk both languages. Because as soon as I get off this call, I'm going to talk to a persona that's heavy technical. And as soon as I'm done with that call, I'm going to talk to a persona who doesn't know what an API is. They just know that they're pulling in Workday now. What does that mean? Their boss told them to do it. Okay, so I feel like I'm lucky enough to be in a place where I can always keep learning about people and rely on those soft skills that I've developed, but I can always rely on the rigor and the structure that I learned about music and how I applied that to my technical learnings to keep growing, because I'm a never-ending learner, and I love that. I don't get to do it otherwise.
I'm selfish now. I rarely do this, but I will ask something for me. That's because what I do. So the piano is also for us. So I'm 1 minute into a play that I learned watching YouTube videos. It's Blinding Lights from The Weekend. Right? Maybe you know this song. I'm 1 minute in, and just by watching a YouTube video, learn how to press keys. It's pretty like difficult to get into the rhythm and two hands and stuff like that. But over a year, I managed to play this. So, how would you like get this maybe transported into the API documentation? Am I on the right path, like in an equivalent, or should I? Right? Is this technical, or am I cheating? I don't know.
No, you're not cheating. You're not cheating. So let's relate it back to a sales call. When you're talking to somebody and you're guiding towards a conversation, what's the end product is the proper solution delivered. Okay, what's your end product? I want to play this song. Okay,
exactly.
Now, is it technical in nature to figure out how to do it? Yes. I cannot sit down here and start playing a piece that I've never studied before or even listened to before. It has to come from something concrete first. Okay. So the fact is, you've heard this song, you're like, I want to play it. How do I get there? Okay. That is the big gap between the two. And that's what we as sales engineers have to do all day long, is figure out how to bridge that gap with the type of person we're talking to. Okay. Now let me come back to that. There's a thing in education called learning modalities. So if someone is a visual learner, and this has been partially disproven, but there's a personality aspect to it as well. So I think there's still some truth in it. You can have someone who is a visual learner. If they can't see it, they can't visualize it mentally, they can't conceptualize it, they can't store it. You have other people who are auditory learners, and if they can't hear it, they're not gonna conceptualize it and store it. And you have other people who are kinesthetic learners. If I can't touch it. Cool thing about music is it's all three. So at any time, in order to be successful, going back to the music example of the sheet music, I can know everything about that page, but if I don't know anything about my instrument, or I don't know anything about my instrument, or I don't know anything about my instrument, voice in this case, or piano, I can't do it. So coming back here, is it cheating to rely on the learning modality you already have? No, that's smart. If I'm a visual learner, I'm not going to go learn something by ear. If I'm an auditory learner, I'm not going to only learn it by visual, but they all play together. So if you, Patrick, have found success, keep in mind, what was your end goal? I want to play this. I want to enjoy playing it. If you have meet your end goal by using an approach that matches your personality and your learning modality, that's just smart. So now how does that relate to sales engineering? I'm not going to talk to someone who's solving an HR problem like I'm going to talk to somebody who's solving a technical diagram and really need to communicate back to their network team. I'm going to talk very differently. And if I don't do that, then it's not going to be successful. It's going to fail. And so coming back to just yourself, do what works for you. Have your own voice. What helps you learn? I learned by ear. I was first a by ear musician. Then I learned the visual. And then I learned how to play and how to feel and direct others to do so. So that's when all three come together. So if you're a mature enough sales engineer, you probably are looking at all the different ways to achieve a problem, knowing, I can pivot and do whatever. But if you're a younger sales engineer, then you're going to know your strengths, play to those.
Yeah, that's amazing. There is a follow-up question that I just look up for. Here. So you're a teacher, you're into art, and you do sales engineering. So, and when we talk about social media, there is this bit of maybe a bit of a resistance of typical sales engineers, I would say, like people who are very technical in nature, who love solitude, crunching problems, stuff like that, right? They tend to ask me, hey, who wants to hear what I have to say? Or is this original? And there's an answer I give. But what do you think about that? Especially about the creativity bit. So being a teacher, being an artist yourself, is this something God-given? Or can everybody be creative? And then how do you come up with ideas, right? Do I need to be blessed?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot there. First thing I want to say, first thing I want to say about someone who is technical in nature, and they feel like they don't have another piece of the puzzle. It's going to develop with time if you spend the time and the energy and the right way of putting your toe in the water. And then that will grow. So don't ever think of yourself as, I have arrived at what I'm going to be. No, you're always going to change and evolve. It's always going to happen. There's no way around it, for better or for worse. You're always going to change. So now that question, is it worth putting out there? Yes. There are people who are on the other side of things in the sales engineering culture, and they need to see how you are being successful and how they're dipping their toe in the water. And we're surrounded by experts, okay? Whether that are experts in your life, in your personal life, you're surrounded by experts in your own company, and you're surrounded by experts in the customer's company, because you need to get their buy-in anyway, find out who your champions are and all that. But you're surrounded by those experts. So everyone has their voice. Use your voice. You had a guest, not this past webinar, I didn't get to see it yet, but the one before that. What was her name? She had the awesome red hair. Melissa. She was all about use your own voice. I loved that. And be you. And that's still true. So that said, your voice matters. If you have something that you want to share, take a risk, go for it. Talking to myself as much as I am to you right now, in that the more you try to express yourself, the more success you're going to find, whether that is expressing yourself technically or whether that is expressing yourself socially. So, so then what does that creativity mean? Don't think of creativity.
And is it God-given?
Exactly.
So you didn't answer that.
I'm there now, because creativity is not locked down to certain personality types at all. Okay. The creative thought you have to solve a technical problem is creative. The creative thought you have of how to present something in a way that's going to make an impact is creative. The person who solves their own problem of trying to visualize something in their head and putting it onto a beautiful canvas is creative. You are creating all things. Now, go directly to your question, is it God-given? It comes from somewhere. And I think it's always important to cultivate what you think you already have and lean into your strengths, but also cultivate what you still feel like you need to develop. And how do I come up with ideas? At the worst possible times. I will always take notes in a call, and it will be after the call's over and I go, oh, I should have said it this way. Or after I finish talking to my daughter and solving something she's struggling with, oh, I wish I would have said this. So I feel like I always create it in hindsight or in retrospect. It's never useful, but it's useful the next time. So I always try to write things down if it's a verbal creativity, if it's a visual creativity, or how to better explain API documentation to someone who has no clue, and explain that, hey, that endpoint's not available yet. Sorry, what can we solve for you otherwise? You just got to listen to yourself. And if something comes to you, don't immediately dismiss it. Cultivate it, even if it's in your own head, just for a little bit. And I'll often talk to myself, which I'm so glad no one hears. But if something still sounds like a good idea, 2-3 minutes later, I'll write it down. If something starts to sound kind of muddy, I'm going to ask myself why. Why does it sound muddy? Is it a good catalyst but a bad thought process? Just go for it. Especially when you're only in your own head. Your only critic is yourself, which is sometimes the worst one. But pursue it. Whatever that creativity means for you, pursue it. Whatever you want to pursue, like you said, by playing the song by The Weeknd on the piano, pursue it. And you have pursued it. And you don't have to create from scratch something to be creative. You can finesse something so that it works even better for you and be creative.
Okay. Have you ever had a student that was not creative in his or own way?
Ooh, no. I actually used to tell my kids that I don't believe in the word talent. That's not always true. There are those just completely rare people who just come out of the womb doing something amazing, okay? And they can't even explain how they do it. They just do it. So I think in that rare case, there is talent. But I don't think in most cases, in the majority of the people, that you should lock yourself down to thinking that you can only do a certain thing, or that you're only predisposed to do a certain thing. Hard work gets you a lot of the ways, and a desire and a thirst to learn. will get you there. So have I had students who cannot visualize their own creativity? Absolutely. Have I had students that I was unable to unlock their creativity? Absolutely. So it's finding the right mentor, or in this case, teacher, finding the right mentor that helps you unlock what's most powerful in you. So I have not ever found anyone who had no creativity. I have found people that I connected with later, or students I saw later, or saw when they became adults on social media, and I'm going, wait, Tim? The guy who just could not bring himself to do anything in my class is now doing this whole thing. Wow. So that's that. And when you think of that as a long game, which is easy to do in education, and it's easy to do when you're working with community music because you're working with families. Think the long game for yourself, and think the long game for your colleagues as well, because their creativity may not be immediately accessible right now, but they haven't found the way to access it or trust themselves enough to pursue it. And the right mentor does wonders.
Okay. No, I agree. And maybe food for thought. I agree with your talent bit. And I think talent, so the word talent was invented for an excuse, right? I have no talent.
Sorry, my audio cut out.
As an excuse for not doing things.
Excuse, okay.
As an excuse. So no, I'm not talented, so I'm not going for it, right? It doesn't work the first time I try, so I give up. That's sometimes I have this feeling, that you can misuse it. So I agree with you not using this word. Like it doesn't make sense.
And I will present the other side of it. So you do have to know yourself, okay? Am I a talented bodybuilder? No, okay? Could I pursue that and pursue something completely outside of what I define myself as? Yes. Could I grow in that? Yes. Would someone then later say, from the outside perspective, you are talented? Possibly. Definitely not in that field, though. I'm not going to be pursuing that. That's not my life. You have to know yourself and know what is adjacent to what you already know. Kind of like when I made the leap into sales engineering, it kind of just fell in my lap, and I was like, this is cool. I had no idea. So I feel like being aware of what opportunities are there and which ones are adjacent to what you're doing, you can then pursue something much more eagerly and develop that skill and develop that talent. But actually, as I'm talking through this, I've never thought about it this way. Talent may be the exterior perception of someone's outward expression of technical development. And granted,
or extreme motivation, right? Or an extreme like this desire to just do that, right? That's because then you do it often, and then for other people it looks like, hey, it looks so easy for you. No, I just tried a lot of times. I want this.
And like those people who are truly exceptional, and don't forget the word exception is in the word exceptional. It's not just yay, it is unique or it is rare. And we have all something we're probably exceptional in, but don't look at someone who's a rare case and be disappointed that you're not it, okay? Because if you talk to that person, I can think of a specific musician, actually pop musician, I won't name him, but I've seen video recordings of him on YouTube of the concerts, and he just looks so dead in the face and sad, but he's actually a beautiful singer who's actually doing really well. But if you ask someone who is so raw talent, they may not even identify that as a talent. But I think, and actually I never thought of it this way, talent may be that external view of someone else's efforts and drive and development, or just raw exceptional skill.
Yeah, it's a judgment, definitely, right? It's an observation, a judgment of somebody's skills at the end, And I completely agree. So that's really interesting. And when we think now about, let's put it back maybe a bit on social media, because there's also a relation to that. Would you say you're talented there? Are you starting your journey? So I think that's what we discussed before, right? You want to go on a bit of a journey there. What would you say? Is it distinction between your work and your personal brand? Or you can even take it with the talent bit, right? Do you need talent to be there? And how do you play this game?
Yeah. So I think the lines are getting blurred in a way that I'm still trying to wrap my head around because LinkedIn very much used to be that place you go to look for a job or that place to go
Yeah.
share your resume. But I mean, I can get on LinkedIn now and I see account executives who are like dancing to a TikTok video in order to to drive them to drive attention so that they can then pursue something else. That's fine, good for them. So I feel like that line's getting blurred and it's going to continue to evolve and change. Uh, uh, I am new to this side, and for anyone watching, he didn't ask me to plug this. I'm actually working through your book, Social Sales Engineer, and it's giving me a lot to think about. And I am just beginning that journey because I used to be, there you go. I used to be very on the personal side and never on the professional side, just because I didn't know that's what LinkedIn could be. And then I'm also doing some additional trainings through another tool to enhance my LinkedIn profile even more. And I would say I am starting to see the tools stack up. And now it's like I remember the first time I was like 16 or 17, my dad, make a little Christmas reference here. I got a toolbox for Christmas. It was full of tools that I could never imagine using. And then I stayed in my garage. And then over the years, it was like, oh, hey, for this problem, I could use this tool. That's how it's feeling right now with the social media beginnings of my professional life, because I'm getting all these tools stacked up in my head and these trainings in the book, and I'm thinking, oh man, when am I ever going to use all these, or when should I use these? I'm not going to use a hammer to put a screw in, but when's the right tool? And I'm at the point right now where it's like I'm opening up that gift from my dad, and I'm saying to myself, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this, but I'm excited. So I would say I'm early enough in the journey from a professional perspective that I'm eager to continue on. And I think there's always going to be, just me personally, a split between, on personal social media, I'm going to share stories about my kids, a journey about my kid, and like my family and things like that. And I feel like professionally, I would never even bring up my children unless my daughter said the most astute thing ever that I think would actually be useful to somebody else professionally. So I feel like there's always going to be that barrier, but I feel like it's continuing to evolve and change. Like it may not always, LinkedIn looks way different than it used to. So what does that mean? So kind of a roundabout answer to say I'm beginning that journey, but I think I'm always going to have some level of split, but I'm never going to reserve from using my personality on LinkedIn, because that's my voice. That's who I am.
Exactly. Okay. And building on top of that, so what do you think is your benefit, like immediately and long term, if you would go on social media? So what is your expectation? We talked about recruiting. I mean, that's one thing, right? You build your network and you're there, but there's more to it, isn't there?
Absolutely. So I would say short term, I wish I would have started it sooner. And I hope someone else hears me say that. And like, if you're on the edge about it, even if you're just a casual consumer, get more engaged, go read more things, go read more opinions. I think we can all gravitate towards what we already agree with, but I've learned a lot recently of reading more from other sales engineers and how they are saying that they see a post, what did they say they liked, what did they get excited about that I wouldn't have ever thought about. So I think in the immediate, it's been really helpful for feeling connected, especially in a COVID influenced world that we're still in. Man, I miss yelling over the top of my cubicle at my old coworker, Andrew, and just talking to him, I miss that. But I love the remote life. It's opened up a whole lot of opportunities and such, like what you see behind me right here. But it's helped me feel a better sense of community and broaden what I think sales engineering can and should be, and how to, and I'm only doing it in the comments mostly right now, but commenting on the things and sharing my opinion and seeing what other people agree or disagree. And it's been good. And of course, long term, I can say this from my previous life, and if Facebook was the tool, professional choir directors and teachers didn't really use LinkedIn so much, but there were Facebook groups and such. And I got to know who to look for, like who posted. Oh, they posted. What tool do they have that I can immediately take in to my classroom next week? And I learned who those people were that I could then grab meaningful content from and go use it.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to, and I even started to contribute and write examples and classroom materials and stuff like that. Just posted, just it's free, take it. And then I started to have people reach out to me, and it was wonderful. I loved that chapter of life. And I can see eventually when I feel like that qualified expert, which I never will, I'll never feel that way in any part of my life. I'm always going to feel like I can grow and do more. But I'm looking forward to continuing to develop and learn more from more experts that I would never have in my life otherwise if I wasn't pursuing it on social media.
That's great. Yeah, it's all about the personal connection, right? And very specifically, I think this is one of the biggest advantages of LinkedIn. It's not the posting or whatever, right? It's like when somebody likes whatever you post and is interested to get into this conversation. This was tough for me. I'm an introvert also my whole life. But LinkedIn actually helps me to solve this in some way. So it makes it easier for me to connect. I couldn't go to strangers, but I can write something, post something. And if someone writes to me, it's like, okay, we are in a conversation. That's my cheating, right? In some way. You talked about people you know and you learn from. Do you have mentors? Is this a good concept? And maybe do you want to name some of them and why they are your mentors?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my first mentors, and this is from the music world, was actually a director. His name was Dr. Alan Hightower. And he had so much, we talked about talent and passion and pursuit and all that. He was so skilled that I just looked at him as the furthest thing from what I was in that moment and said, man, I could never be that. And it intrigued me. And he is still more than I could ever be in so many ways. And I have so much respect for that man. And I got to know him through music and through choirs, and eventually became one of his college students. And anyway, I pursued him and learned a ton from him. But he's told me when people would ask him, hey, how long did it take for you to learn this orchestral score? Because he could conduct orchestras. Or how long did it take you to learn this piece on the piano that's incredibly elaborate? Because he could do that. Or prepare for a complex 8, 10, 12, 16 part choir composition and be ready to teach that in a meaningful way, in a way that makes sense, because that's huge. He would always answer about 20 minutes or some version of that. He would say about 20 minutes and 30 years. So that always, I wasn't just enthralled by what he was capable of. I was enthralled by the level of effort he gave and how he developed himself, and recognized that it took time to get to where he was. So he was a great mentor. Another mentor I had was a fellow teacher. Her name was Heather Orr, and she just had the best thing that was ever put in my head, and that is be thankful for everything. And I said, everything? Because I was going through some stuff. I'm just like, how am I supposed to be thankful for everything, And she's just like, well, yeah, you're going to carry your past self with you no matter where you go. So how are you going to make sure that you've had a good heart the whole time? I thought that was great. And my last mentor that I've had specifically in this world was my previous manager, Nicholas Gregory. Awesome guy. I learned so much about speaking in the customer's voice to the customer, asking the right questions, and I just learned so much from him. And I'm just thankful that I had the opportunity to have each of these mentors at different chapters of my life, and being able to just grow from them. It's been great.
Maybe if some people on the call or on the stream didn't have a mentor, maybe they think, how do I find one?
Yeah.
How do I find people that actually would give me advice, or I can ask for a problem to discuss? So what would be your advice to actually find a mentor?
I think the word mentor, and probably, I wish I knew the origin of the word, because I wonder if it's baked into the origin. You would think it would be only one-on-one, and it doesn't have to be that case, especially with the way social media is right now and the way our world has developed. You can find a mentor, someone that enhances you, and appreciate it from afar, and seek out those growth opportunities. It doesn't have to be a one-on-one conversation. Granted, that is the most powerful, but if you are just getting started, you don't want to go find someone that you think you respect without knowing more about them. Because it may be a mismatch of skill, a mismatch of personality, a mismatch of goals. I think it's good to have many people that fill you up and have a few people that you can share your journey with. And then I feel like the mentors will rise from that group. So that's kind of that's a little ethereal about how to approach that. But by and large, get on social media, look for posts. Which ones do you find yourself liking the most? The algorithm's going to throw it to the top anyway. You're going to start seeing those things more, and then be aware of your own journey. Who do I feel like I'm gravitating towards? Don't just trust the algorithm. And then follow that person, then follow another person, follow conflicting ideas, see which one you're polarizing towards, which one is correct, but it makes you uncomfortable, which one is incorrect, but it feels right for some reason. And then send a message to them, risk it, go for it. What's the worst thing you're going to do? You have, not everyone gets to every message every day. There are some people who do it. I don't know how they do it, but if you hear back from them, it could be a really fertile foundation for a conversation, and ask a question. And if that makes you uncomfortable, put it in the comments, because a mentor doesn't have to be someone who's so much further on the journey. It can be somebody who put on a comment as well, who is at that same level of bravery, because your growth is going to be incremental. It's not going to be bombastic. You're not going to suddenly arrive because you found the right mentor. I would say develop with those around you, and then keep your eye out and see what rises.
Nice. Okay, so shoot messages out there, contact with people, right? And what would be better than social media to actually find those and identify those, right? So that's pretty cool. And let me torture you with some more questions. So this one is powerful, I think. What's a failure that made you more successful in the long run? Especially, so let's look at the sales engineering maybe, and then maybe you find some way into the arts again.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So it's a failure in the sales engineering zone. Yeah, and this right here, gosh, it makes me uncomfortable to say and share a story, because I'm still developing in this, but I'll be brave with you today, Patrick. I'll do it.
Thank you.
You know, I would feel that it's important to always listen and learn, and always look for those opportunities to grow. This was actually a post I did the other day, and it was, as soon as you feel like you have nothing to learn from someone, you're right. You won't learn anything from them. And I can't say how many times I have come across a hurdle or come across something, and that could be anything in your organization, anything in your own process, anything at all, and then had to get over how I felt about it. So in that moment, I failed to see the opportunity to grow. But it's made me, I try to remind myself of that quote all the time, because if I am open and willing to listen and willing to receive, even if it's conflicting, especially on social media. You're going to come across opinions different from your own. And God forbid you put yourself out there, put a post up and someone puts it in the comments. Be willing to listen and don't treat it as a failure. But that in itself has been a failure for me. For me to then recognize later, man, I have so much I can learn from this person, this colleague, if I decide to. If I decide that I can learn from them. And I've had that happen quite a few times lately because I've chosen to, and to keep myself open and to keep learning. And it's been a journey. So yeah. And that's specifically in the sales engineering role, you know. So if someone said to me, you know, hey, we're not gonna, hey, by the way, you're diving deep down into this response API type, because I do have a lot of integration conversations. And you know, we could have just done it this way. Man, I didn't want to hear that. I'd already sunk so much time here. And then, but no, that person's right. So then I can go, I'd just be frustrated, or I can say, how did you know that one? How did you pursue that one? How did you ask that question? So always be willing to ask those questions. And whether it's been a relationship with a customer, and hey, the way that it was able to move that deal forward in a way that was faster than I could have ever imagined, how was that achieved? And how is that something that could be replicated in the pre-sales team in a meaningful, authentic way? So yeah, specifically to sales engineering there. And gosh, fine arts is nothing but failing. It's nothing but failing. Like, I haven't prepared anything. Let's see what happens. You know? And I played a wrong note when I was trying to play a 5 chord, and it doesn't sound right. So the thing is, music and fine arts is nothing but failing. It's nothing but going, ooh, that didn't work. And how can I make sure I don't make that mistake again? So if I try this again, and this isn't really a piece, it's not really anything, but. And being able to, that was lousy. Okay, but the point is, and I even told Patrick I wasn't going to do that because I felt nervous about it.
You surprised me. Yes.
Yeah, but you have to be skilled enough in your skill to then improvise within it. Improvise on the call. Improvise with a customer, with a colleague, with a friend. You may not always have the answer, but brainstorm with them, but you can't do that if you haven't already developed skills. So creativity to me is the layer on top of established skills. So if you have something you already know you're good at, pursue it. And if you have something that's outside your realm, pursue it anyway, and let the creativity come with it. But be okay with failure. And actually, I'll leave that there because I could go on to that. I'm just going to leave that there.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. The only thing I would add to the creativity bit is, it's a merge. So the more thing, like you say, the more things you pursue, the more you can take and actually bring together, right? And this is how originality and creativity, at least in my mind, happens, right? On the failing bit, try to write books, right? And become successful. It took me some books to get to this success right now with the social sales engineer. And it's not even a bestseller yet. Let's wait for the next, right? So it's never ending. Like you said, go for it. And the same with posting online. Do it regularly, right? See what resonates, right? Hone your skills, writing, conceptioning, all the things. I mean, there's much more. How do I format a post? Like, people resonate differently. Do I have a block of text? It could be the best story ever, right? It wouldn't appeal, like, go away.
If people would just read it, it would be so helpful, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but they aren't. So there's so many things to learn, even the tiniest details. Pursue it, go for it, right?
Absolutely.
Great.
And actually, it's funny, you just gave me another thought there. If you're worried about failure, if I'm worried about playing a wrong note, it's going to prevent me from trying. But I wouldn't even treat likes or comments or activity on a post as successful or not successful. But if you are worried that something you put out there is not going to work, it's going to fall to the bottom. And then when eventually you do find success, it's going to rise to the top. So, that just hit me, and it's kind of, that'll help me along as well.
Yeah. And it will go up and down, right? There might be weeks where you post like, and nobody cares. And you think it's the greatest thing you ever developed. But nobody seems to care. It's just going on with that, right? People are busy like with their stuff. Maybe after a year or so, they see it, right? It takes a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go next. That's what I wanted to ask you. So, any advice for our young sales engineers, young in the profession, young in age, who start out the journey, right? Maybe switch from a different field. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give them?
Get started.
Get started.
Get started. And I mean, it's true for financial investing. It's true for skill acquisition. It's true for personal confidence. Get started. Go for it. I'm saying that to myself, even more so. It's like, okay, like I was talking about the toolbox earlier. Okay, do I know which tools to use? Yes. Which ones do I feel comfortable using? Yes, I'm going to use those first, of course, naturally. But start putting other things out there, and you can't do that if you're not putting anything out there. And what works for you, find out what that is. If it doesn't work for you, stay away from it for now until you feel confident about a different way to approach it later, if you decide to do so again. So I would say just get started. Because I mean, if what I would say today would be hopefully very different than what I say 6 months from now, different from what I would say a year from now. And
keep changing.
That. Exactly. And setting goals you can't reach. I actually saw this on TV the other day. Set a goal that you can't reach. Set a goal you can reach. So like 2 or 3 goals that are just inaccessible in the next 3 months. Because even if you get 50% of the way there, if you never set the goal, you might stumble into 10% success. But and then also have those goals that are most meaningful in your life. You know, maybe a family, friends, a very important work goal, and make sure you achieve it. You know, but have those goals that are aspirational and have those goals that are concrete and achievable with effort. And that can apply right here in social media too. So but you can't do any of that if you don't get started. So get started.
Get started. And I love the bit of changing. So you hope you're another person. You will be anyways, right? Your body changes, your mind changes, whatever, everything changes. Hopefully your opinions too, when you get better facts or something, right? And there's I don't know if it's a German thing, but typically we would, if somebody has a birthday, we would tell them, hey, stay the person you are, right? You're so great. And I stopped writing this on the cards because I think it's an awful kind of advice, right? Is this similar to in the US? Like, would you say this?
Stay the person you are. I've never.
Yeah, you're such a great person. Please stay the same.
I've heard you're a great person, or you've grown. So I think even the fact that we're proud of you is what somebody might say on that, or hey, you've done so much, or congratulations on ... Now you said birthday, so it might be a little different, but I don't think I've ever heard
then it's German, and then it fits the German culture.
But at the same time, you be careful, be confident in who you are, because you're taking that person with you. You are that person.
Absolutely.
So I can see the value in it.
For me, it sounds like always a bit like, I like you the way you are. Please don't conflict with me because you start something new, right? Or you get a different opinion. That's sometimes what I hear, right? Which is very egoistic, like, right?
I can see the value in that. Yeah. Okay.
And talking about good advice, what would be a bad advice that you see people giving maybe to those starters? What would be bad advice that you say, don't listen to that? If somebody tells you that, forget it.
I would say bad advice would be measure everything by likes and comments. That would be a piece of bad advice. But it's naturally what I first used to measure everything when I was younger and social media was in its infancy, and it was all Facebook, Twitter, and everything. I would say that's not productive now. It is, if what you need in your life is a good mentor, so let's go back to that. If what you need in your life is a good mentor, and you're wanting to put something out there that shows who you are, and you have 2 really good comments from people that clearly are like-minded enough that you could continue to grow with them exactly where they are in their journey too, that's success. Because it's not about 1,000 likes or anything like that. It's about what did you need for your growth anyway, and be okay with that when it arrives, or however it arrives, or if it arrives tomorrow, next week, next month. But continue to cultivate that and see who you connect with on social media, because in my opinion, social media is useless without the people. It's useless without the who, because if you're not connecting to somebody, what was the point? So don't measure it by that. And of course, people like me who are, I wouldn't define myself as an extrovert. I'm very introverted and cautious, but I express myself in an extrovert manner. So, which is pretty normal with people who are performance, especially fine arts, because we are so critical of our process. But then when we put it out there, we need to be ready to show it effortlessly so that it looks easy. It's really not. But I think even all that said, I love data. I love measuring. So it's very easy for me to just be, how many likes, how many comments, because it's something concrete I can measure. But it's a concrete measurement of someone's emotional reaction. That's take with that what you will. I love the comments more.
Yeah, and I think the point is, they are not liking you. Yes. They are liking the product.
Good point.
Right, and especially as an author, this is horrible sometimes, because a book has so much work in it. So a comment, especially a bad one, can really hurt you. But you have to learn this is not about you, and it's the same on social media. If you had an idea, put it out there, and people don't like it, well, that's it. But it's just an idea. It's not you, right? It came from somewhere. And there's the one follower thing you said. There's also a nice quote. I don't know where I have it from, but it's Ryan Holiday, Perennial Seller. It's an amazing book for everybody who's creative. Perennial Seller from Ryan Holiday. He says, he says, if you can't make one follower happy, how can you ever imagine to make 10,000 happy, right? And it starts with one. If the one follower stays and comes back every time you post something, you got a fan, right? I mean, whatever you think about the word, but there's somebody caring about the content putting out. So everyone, or especially if there's one, right? I'm in a book bubble, right? And I saw one author he's quite okay-ish in terms of success. And he put out a live stream, but he made an ugly comment. Well, there are only, or I continues this live stream, but there were only 10 people, right? So it's what is going on, man? Even if there's one, right? They are your fans. They spend their time with you. Value this, right? And I think it's the same. So if you get this in your head, I think it makes things easier on social media. Right?
Yeah, and I mean, I want to tie it back to one of the first questions you asked me. Why are you a sales engineer? And I mean, because I like people, I like helping people grow, I like helping people find success, whether that's business success, whether that's personal success, through technical means that they can't achieve otherwise. And I feel like social media usefulness and how I process what it can and should be lines up with that. Because if somebody comes on to social media, LinkedIn in this case, and sees something I post and they have been enriched by it and it's made their life better and they have something that they've done better as a result, that ticks that same part of my brain of you're doing this for people, you're doing this to help people, you're doing this not in service of them, because you never know what's typical for you and atypical and critical and helpful for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. I have this mug here, right, with the fantasy map. You can't.
Right.
It doesn't really zoom. Doesn't matter. But the point is, I created this map, right? And you said you didn't even know it was me, like in the discussion before. But the thing is, people come to me after a month, like, we use this now to actually evaluate new pre-sales tools, and that's amazing. Like, it takes time, right? It's continue doing it, right? So that's. I'm glad you mentioned this. So people, please have the patience, right? And also, there's one more thing. Mentors, I think, are also books. I'm a great believer in books, and that those, like, downloading other people's opinions and thoughts is also a very intimate, like, mentoring, right? Maybe you agree. I don't know. But what are great books for sales engineers? Yeah, apart from the standard books that you can, when you Google sales engineer, right? What would be good books for sales engineers?
Two books, and they kind of hit on the same thing, and it was important to me in my journey. The first one is Zen and the Art of Archery. It's a short book. I read it on a flight once and never forgotten it. And it actually came to me as a recommendation from somebody I was hoping would be a mentor, actually, and then it just was not a good fit. But he said, "Here, go read these books and then call me." And but it wasn't a good fit. But I did learn a lot from it. The book is Zen and the Art of Archery. It's such a good book for recognizing when you have a good demo, when you have a bad demo. How did that feel? Is that something you want to do again? What led to the feeling of failure versus the act of failure? Did it really fail? What persona did you fail? I mean, I can get trapped in that circle all day long. But what I really need to do is reflect on it and see what was successful so that I can carry that with me and do it again. And if there was something I didn't do well, reflect on that. And then there's a beautiful moment in the book where the author he's telling his own story, and it's archery. So he lets it fly, and he goes, and he knows it felt right. Everything was good about it. The technique was right. It hit the mark. And it was just a beautiful moment because it all came together. And I feel like we've all had those demos where, I hit a stride. That was great. There was a bunch of aha moments, and they all understood it. And the technical champion is ready to advocate for it as soon as I hang up. But it's a great book. The other book I would recommend, there's variations of it, but and that is The Inner Game of Tennis. I'm not a tennis player, but it's very much the same vein of a self-reflection and self-perception. The difference is it's in the moment. So you have the reflection after a demo, and you're perceiving how it went, and you're observing how it went, or you're seeing email feedback or all that. But Inner Game of Tennis that's such a fast-paced game. And there's a variation of it called The Inner Game of Music, written by a complimentary author with his blessing. But it's that idea that in the moment, how do you let things roll, or how do you turn a negative to a positive, and that intermental game that takes place? Because it's especially with the remote workforce in COVID, it's become it's an inner game, sales engineering. It's become and hopefully you have a great Slack or a great Teams or a great whatever your remote communication tool is, so that you don't feel alone, but it's become an inner game, and you need to be ready for that.
That's such a great advice. Yeah, it's really great. And I'm a big believer in Stoic philosophy. And if you read my book, that's also in there. And this is really Stoicism at play. So I think both books really play with these great ideas of being responsible for yourself. So I like your recommendations a lot. We have 1 more minute. And I want to give you this last question.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Yeah.
Give us 2 tips or hacks about anything, like your own style, like how do you hack the world? How do you hack your life, your family, whatever?
Hack my family. Whoa, don't tell them. I would say the biggest thing is pause. And I'm talking about my family life, pause. Truly take whatever you've got in your head. It will be there later. And if it got lost, you've got an email to remind you about it. Or if it was a trash idea, let it go. Pause, truly pause and see what's going on and respond to those people around you. Because like when my daughter sits down to me, next to me at the table when we have dinner, I have to truly pause and leave everything right where it is. So I come back to it later. Don't drop it, just leave it where it is. And then listen and respond to her. And that's a skill we already have as sales engineers, to listen and respond, question and respond, question and question, you know? So do that in your own personal life and it will enhance what you have already. So that one relates to sales engineering. The other one is Christmas lights. You can tell my wife and I have already started to decorate. My wife sent a TikTok video to me, and you can get those plastic clips, clip it on and all of that up on the roof. And she actually sent me a video, because I hate those things, because I was always just fingers out.
Sorry.
It's okay. And what you do is take a tie wrap, leave it on there forever. When it breaks, cut the tie wrap, put another one on. And then when you're done, which I'm looking forward to this, just take them off of your ceiling, take them off of your roof from underneath the shingle, drop back in the box. And then when it comes time to put them up again next year, you get your ladder and just pop, 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 pop. And if any of them break, you're replacing a few, instead of having to work your fingers in the cold to either put them back on or take it off. Just tie wrap them in your garage or whatever you have and go knock it out, go plug it in. So we're about halfway done with those. I'm going to get the rest of them knocked out this weekend.
Amazing. My daughters also want something on our garage. It's not so typical in Germany, I would say. Some people do it. My daughters now requested me the same, so I will go for your idea and make it maybe permanent. Amazing.
I'll send you the actual YouTube link. Enough YouTube. I'll send you the actual TikTok link, so you can see that.
We might have different shingles, though, like the way our roofs are made, or like. But yeah, send it to me, please. I would love to see it.
We'll see. Yeah.
Let's try if this is compatible, like between continents. Right?
An American roof and a German roof. Good.
Exactly.
What's there?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was such a pleasure speaking to you. The time flew by like it's 1 hour. I don't know where it went. Thanks so much for all your insights into art, into sales engineering, into music, into teaching. It was a huge pleasure having you here. Any last final words you want to tell the world?
You're on your way to becoming an expert at something. Keep going. You're surrounded by experts. Listen to them. Mm-hmm. And whether that means you are pursuing your own personal growth or relationships in social media from people you respect, or you are starting to contribute your own content. You're an expert in something. You're surrounded by experts. So are your customers. So are your colleagues. And just realize that you have a support system all around you.
Yeah.
Just be brave enough to seek it out and see where you get to go next and see what you get to do next and be thankful for everything. That's it.
Amazing. Nice one. You are really wise. I testament this. So that's great stuff. Okay, everybody. So don't forget, follow our little phoenix up here. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Send us comments. Connect with us on LinkedIn. You're very welcome. Every message is welcome. It will be answered. Have a great evening or day. Thank you very much, Joe. And yeah, see you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.